Hey there, my name is Chuck Black and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing a winter sunrise painting and we're using gold and fluid acrylics on a 16 by 20 inch stretch canvas. So if you'd like to join us, welcome. Of course, if you'd like to support me and what I'm doing, I auction off all the paintings I do on my videos here through my eBay store, and that link can be found in the description below. All right, let's get started on our painting. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I have this T ruler and I'm going to establish just kind of a horizon here. And I'm going to try to get that straight, maybe up a little bit higher. I want it to be slightly below center because I'm going to want that sun to be somewhere in the center of the painting. So we're going to leave it about like that. And the colors that we are using today are carbon black, titanium white, cerulean blue, prussian blue, cad orange, and cad red. Okay, so we're going to start by taking, this is a round blender or scrumbling brush, just a nice round brush. And we're going to pick up some white on that brush. And we're also going to pick up a little bit of orange. And we want that to be a little more towards the white end. Let's just start with that. I'm going to just start thinking where that sun is going to be, and I'm kind of going around that area. The sun's going to be somewhere right in the center. And so this is just kind of an initial layer. It's kind of like a underpainting. And now what we're going to do is we're going to grab some more white, a little black. I'm going to get more of a gray. And then I'm going to pick up a little red and add it into that gray. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to get some more white. And I'm going to pick up some white and a little more orange this time. I want to think about where some of these clouds might be. And then I'm going to pick up some red. And you know what? I might take, this is a quinacridone red, and I'm just kind of getting inspired, kind of right in the center. So we're going to, right in the middle of this painting, we're going to get some quinacridone red. We're going to add that. It's going to make it real pink. Then we're going to take some Prussian blue, and it's going to turn it more violet. So we're going to get some violet. This is going to make the shadows of our clouds. I'm going to have to mix up a little more. And again, this is more so blocking in these colors. I'm not worried about everything being exact, being perfect at this point. I just want the best idea on the canvas so that I can move to the next step with a little more confidence of what I want to do, what I want to get out of this. So I'm just kind of imagining some shaded areas of the clouds, and those are going to be the violets. Now you can start to see our clouds take shape a little bit. I'm going to grab some cerulean blue now with a little bit of violet left on the brush. So this is kind of a lighter bluish color, a little bit gray, kind of getting that in between. And I might take some more cerulean blue, a little bit of Prussian blue, get that darker blue. We'll put some of that up in the corner. Maybe a little over here, a couple areas. All right, now I'm going to wash my brush. And you know, I think I'm actually going to grab some primary yellow as well. So we're going to switch up a little bit originally planned. I'm going to make this sun really bright. So now we've got some yellow. I'm going to take white, add a little bit of yellow. We don't want it to be too saturated, just a nice light yellow. A little bit lighter than what's on there. Let's just cover some of the area around closer to the sun. We're going to have to go over this again. All right, now I'm going to grab a little bit of black and quinacridone, and I'm going to add white. And we're going to add this kind of a pinkish, purplish color, a magenta, kind of in between. It's just got a little more white in it. We're just going to add a base of this where we want a tree line. And so the first step of this whole painting is not worried about details. It's just about getting these blocks of color in so we can step back and figure out where we want to go next. Now I'm going to grab some Prussian blue and some cerulean blue. I'm going to mix that right in there. I'm going to go towards the edge a little more. Kind of following that horizon line we made, but it can vary a little bit. So this is just going to be mostly covered up. This is what's going to be underneath all of the trees. So we're kind of looking at what are the color of the shadows maybe. And where might our trees be? Just kind of getting the idea of a couple trees. And we're going to start to leave some of that pink. Just in the center here. And while we're doing this, if you guys haven't already or you don't know, I'd just like to let you all know that I give away a free hand-signed art print, a limited edition print I give away free to one of my email subscribers. And all you have to do to sign up is click this card that's about to show up right here and enter your name and email, and you'll be entered for a chance at winning every week. Thank you so much for your support, guys, and if you like this video, please subscribe. We got plenty more to come. Alright, so that's kind of just the base of the trees, just gives us a gist of what's going to be there. And we're going to take some white and a little bit of quinacridone. It's kind of a pinkish color. We're going to get it really white. Might have a tad bit of gray in there from the color before. We're just going to layer that right underneath our trees. So this is a really easy step overall. You can see how everything's starting to take shape just a little bit. This really starts to bring things to life. We kind of know the direction. When I finish here, what we'll do is we'll let it dry. Alright, now we're going to need a little more white. And I'm going to take a little bit of cerulean blue. I'm going to add that. In fact, we've got a little more blue here left. Kind of add that to the mixture. This is going to be a little bit darker. Alright, now we're going to take a little more blue, a little more cerulean blue. And get it even darker down lower. I'll kind of keep the focus in the center of the painting. That's even darker. Kind of mix that on both sides. All right. Wash my brush good. And we're probably going to want to finish a little bit in the sky. I'm going to pick up some of that light blue. I'm going to add a little bit of quinacridone. So that color is going to be kind of over here. Again, we just want to cover everything. We don't want to leave anything uncovered. We're about ready to take a break and let this dry. But we just want to make sure that we've got paint at least on a little bit of everything. And we might take some white and some orange. And we might pick up just a tad bit of blue in there. Just kind of blend the two together. I'm going to grab a little more orange. I'm even going to grab a little bit of quinacridone. So this is going to be a real vibrant pinkish orange. Let's just kind of scrub some highlights. Imagine the sun just kind of reflecting off certain areas up here. kind of going right over the top. It's not blending a whole lot. Some of that's probably dry underneath. This can be however you'd like it to be. All right, we're about ready to give it a break. And let's let this dry. And then we'll come back to it. We'll think about the colors that we have here, maybe a little bit about the design, but we've got a really good start. This is a great underpainting. Let's leave it dry and we'll come back in a little bit. Okay, so now that this is dry, I think what I've decided to do is I want to have the sky pulled down a little more, and I'm going to have more trees to kind of pull us in both sides here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some white and put that right there. And then I'm going to grab some red, a little bit of black. A little more black. And I'm just going to test that. Now that's a pretty good color for probably something down through here. So we want this to appear to kind of be diffused out by all the light from the sun. So these clouds are a little bit lighter. We're going to float a couple right through here. We're going to take a little bit of quinacridone and mix that in there. And what that will do is give us a color a little bit closer to that violet, that blue up top. Now we can add a little bit of blue to it. A little cerulean blue. We can start to redesign some of these clouds. Maybe take a little more blue, get that mixed in. A little bit darker over on this side. On the sides, you want to get a little bit darker too. So we'll pull that through here. I'm trying not to overdo too much. It's easy to overdo. And we can always come back and keep adding more, keep changing more. And we're going to need to work on the highlights, but I'm more so just concerned about just the overall composition, the value of everything. Are we getting it closer? Is this the direction I want to go? That's kind of what I'm trying to look for right now. And I'm going to wash my brush. Squeeze out the water good. And I'm going to take some white. And maybe just a little bit of yellow. Get most of that off, just want a little bit. I'm just kind of looking for some areas we can start to apply some highlights to. And maybe we'll take some orange. And a little bit of yellow. We'll get kind of an in-between orange and yellow. A little more white in there. Now I'm trying to add some highlights to these oranges, because these oranges are going to take a different shape when we're all done. So I'm trying to get on the closest side to the sun where these oranges are, and adding a little bit of lighter yellow. We're going to build this up tighter and tighter every layer we do. This is kind of the in between where we're getting a little more controlled with what we do, but we're still just trying to make general improvements. So I'll grab some orange, some red, this is going to be a lot more vibrant. We want that sun to bounce all over these blue clouds. So we're really getting a lot of this orange. Wherever that blue transitions to that lighter yellow, kind of the spots I'm trying to target. Okay, now I'm going to wash my brush. We're going to switch to the trees quick. We're going to grab some cerulean blue and some prussian blue. Get that mixed together. And we're going to start thinking about where might our bigger trees be. Well, we might put a big one through here. This is going to be a little more up close, and there might be, maybe we'll put a couple right through here. And another pretty big one over here. And another big one over here. Now this is starting to take on a really dramatic, kind of just draws you in. And while we have that color on the brush, I'm going to add a lot of water to it, just a whole bunch of water to it. So this is going to be really runny. We're going to put it in the bottom. I'm going to kind of use my fingers to fan it out. We can put a couple more. Get a little bit higher, right on the bottom. And over here. This will start to glaze. start to glaze these dark areas, and it's really going to make it a lot richer. That depth is going to increase a lot. So I'm going to wash my fingers, wash the brush. And I'm going to take a smaller brush. This is the same round blender, but just smaller. We're going to grab more of that blue. We're really going to get a little more detailed. With these trees that are kind of in the distance, we want them just a little more defined. All right. That's looking a lot better. We're going to have to add highlights. We want these trees to have snow, so we're painting the color that's underneath the snow. But we're not going to go overboard with these trees quite yet because we want to finish that sky before we get too detailed with these trees. As we finish up these trees, I want to start thinking about the sky, but we don't want to do that sky yet until these trees dry because we don't want that to blend in any part. So we can work a little bit more on the upper part of the sky. We're going to stick with the same smaller brush. We're going to grab some white and some red and a little bit of quinacridone, mix that in there, real reddish pink. Then we're going to take some black and white, we're going to pull that a little bit towards the grayscale, mute it down a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit to the back sides of these oranges, and then I'm going to kind of fan it out with my finger. Just little circle motions. And I'm getting some water. Want a little more flow in the paint. It's got a little more water in the paint. I'm just going to start working slowly on smoothing out different colors. We want things to get very smooth. We can add some hard edges later. I'm going to go around with the pink. I'm going to get that transition between orange and blue, kind of make it pink. Then I'll start thinking about the blues. I might add some darker blues this way. And then when I get further down, closer to the white, what I want to do is maybe pick up a little bit of that pink and then maybe add a little bit of yellow. We might want to start adding some even lighter clouds that look like they're way off there. And we can just kind of start lightening up some areas that are nearby the sun down here. Some of these oranges or some of these grays might be a little bit too dark. So I can kind of start going over the top with a lighter color. Maybe some pink. And we can take some white and some yellow, a little bit of orange. We can start looking for more highlights, kind of just going back and forth. So I'm going to speed it up And I'm just going to keep going back and forth, and you'll see me doing the same thing. But I'm just going to speed up a little bit because this is going to get pretty time consuming. It's going to get kind of tedious. But it's the same thing. And if you have any questions about the part that's sped up here, just leave them in the comments section below. I'll be happy to go over it or maybe do a better job in the next video. Until then, I'm just going to keep poking at this and we'll come back when I'm ready to slow it down. Okay, so I've just been breaking up the sky by using the same colors that we've been going over, and I've just got some blue, and I broke up with some of that cerulean blue and white, broke up some of these clouds, and then as we move closer to the sun, I started getting into the lighter yellows and oranges, and just started lightening it up, and especially around here, and I got with a really light yellow color, and I kind of went over some of the trees just to make sure that's really glowing behind there. So now what we're going to do is work on some of the trees. We're going to start with our light source. And I've got a smaller, this is a 1/4 inch flat brush. And what I want to do, make sure we have some clean white. I'm going to take some white, get a lot on there, and I want to get a really bright area where our sun is going to be. And then while we have this white on the brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow. I'm going to go right underneath, kind of up and down using the skinny side. I'm going to take a little bit of cadmium red and add it to that mixture. I'm going to go right underneath that, leaving a little bit of that yellow. I'm going to to grab some more Cad Red now and add it to that. Add a little more white. We're going to go underneath all of that. I'm going to kind of blend it out back and forth. Kind of go up and down and then kind of fan that out. We don't want to worry about the tree detail yet. We want to worry about the correct color. So I'm even going to bring, this is starting to get a little dry, but I've got a little bit of that orangish color left on the brush, just enough to start going over the tops of these trees. I want these trees to really fade, look like they're further back. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash that brush, and I'm going to pull out a smaller brush. This is a number 2 round, and I'm going to start thinking about the detail on the trees. I'm going to mix some gray, just black and white. I'm going to add a little bit of red. And carefully, I'm going to start the long process of going to especially the tops of these trees. We want the tops of these trees to be a light reddish gray, because we want to look like the sun is fading out some of those blues, but we can still see some of the detail. This is just going to make the sun a lot more intense. It's going to make it look or appear to be an actual light source. And we'll end up doing that with all the trees across. I'll have to just lighten the tops. So we'll do that to just about every tree, and then what I'll do, we'll have to go to these trees and these trees. I'm just kind of showing you an example. Then what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of quinacridone, I'll add it to that mixture. This will be a little bit darker. I'm going to start to think about some shadows. This will be some lighter pink shadows. It's naturally going to get darker the further we get away from the sun. And then what I'll do is I'll take some white, add that, make it really close to the white scale, make it very diluted. We're going to start to add snow on tops of all these branches. We're going to create branches by just imagining where that snow might be. I'm going to go to all the trees and do this first. I'll show you on this one particularly of how we get there. So we want all the snow to take on kind of a pinkish hue. But it's very diluted. So we've got red and black and a lot of white. But then underneath we want it to be very blue. And we'll do this one for example too. And we want those branches to sag downward. Look like they're really heavy with snow. So that's a pretty good start. So let's just stick with that. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to grab cerulean blue. I'm going to add it to that original mixture. This is a lot more blue. We're going to try to go in between all those highlights. Start adding some good shadows that are much more defined. And we get further down, I'm going to grab some more Prussian blue. When we get further down, I'll grab that Prussian blue. I'll mix it with the cerulean blue. We're going to want real dark shadows, especially down lower. And we're going to have to be pretty tedious as we go around all of these highlights. I like to make realistic trees, and so I'm going to try to be very careful where I add these shadows. I'm going to go underneath all those highlights. And I might have to go back to the highlights, adjust some of them. But you can see how that tree starts to take shape. And when repeated over and over to all the trees nearby, all the imperfection of this tree will disappear and they'll all start to look really good as a whole, as long as we stick to this general pattern. So I'm going to keep going to all these trees, adding the highlights, then the shadows. I'm going to have some smaller trees right under the sun. But when those trees get up close into the sun, I'm going to grab some red, some white, some orange. Get it very diluted. A lot of white. It's darker than the sun though, and we're going to add trees that go up into here. They'll be very light orange, pale when they're going through the sunlight, but then when they get down lower, they'll fade in to these areas that have more blues, grays. So we'll kind of fade from blue to gray to orange up top. And we'll have to add highlights. So I'm going to keep going. But if you have any questions about these trees, let me know. We're just going to work on some of these distant trees along the horizon. And then I'll slow it down when we get to some of the details in some of these bigger trees, and then we'll kind of move to the foreground here. Okay, so I'm going to slow it down and show you a little bit what I'm doing, and then I've switched to back to the 1/4 inch flat brush, and I've got some white and cerulean blue, and I'm picking up a little bit of Prussian blue. And I get a lot on my brush because we're covering some bigger areas, and I'm just trying to imagine some tree branches on these bigger trees. And I'm thinking of the snow sitting on top, and it kind of falls off. And maybe a longer branch right here. And that bottom is kind of following those branches, and the top is pretty much going to be just a pile of snow. So it's round on top, and then it kind of falls off in little pieces on the bottom. And we have a couple random spots in here too. And as we get closer to the top, there's going to be more snow. We won't worry about the shadows just yet. We're just laying in the snow, trying to picture how many branches might be on here. We can get creative with every tree. You'll notice some trees, the branches look a certain way, other trees, they look a little different. Could have different kinds of pines. And those bottom branches are going to just blend right into the ground because that snow is heavy. There's a lot of it. And kind of feather some of that bottom area. And maybe there's a tree just behind it, so we can just tap in some snow behind it. And we'll have to work on a few of these trees, touch them up. But in general, that's what I've been doing. And now what I'm going to do is wash the brush quick. We want to start intensifying the sun. The way we do that is we might want to darken some areas, and especially underneath the sun. That always brings out the sun a little bit more. So we're going to take some Prussian blue, and I'm going to get a clean spot down here. We're going to take some Prussian blue and a little cerulean blue. And I'm going to get a little bit of water on the brush. I'm going to start. This is kind of like a semi-glaze, a little transparent. I'm going to start taking that darker blue. And down low, I'm just going to start to tap in between the areas of snow. And some of that's going to overlap into the snow. We want to just start darkening that area. We want to make it a little richer too. We'll have to work on some trees through here still. And going over some areas altogether. This area's got a little more shade and kind of cover that up. And that stuff is dry underneath. So we're not going to blend it. Don't have to worry about any of that. little bit darker blue. Start to add some darker shadows down here as well. Now I'm trying to stay in between the white areas as best I can. We're going to start to really sink those trees into the snow, into the horizon. So now you can see that this is starting to bring out the sun a lot more. And so I'm going to keep going around with a slightly darker blue. I'm going to look for areas I can really put some darker shadows. I'm going to keep doing shadows just like that. Then the last thing I'll be doing is I'll be thinking about the sun here. And what I'm going to do with the sun is I'm going to pull out a liner brush. This is just a number 1 liner. And we want to start getting some of these areas a little more finalized. And so some of these spots, maybe these taller trees, we want those to fade. We want those to blend into that light source a little more. So we've got some white and some quinacridone, and we're going to pick up a little bit of yellow as well. And I'm going to start brushing a little bit of that light pink yellow color and just kind of glazing that over the top. Just maybe on the front side of these trees here, the side that's facing the sun. It's going to appear like the light's really hitting them. We can do it to some of these ones over here. So as the trees get closer, they get more pinkish orange. We'll add a little bit of blue with that pink now. That's going to darken it a little bit, and then we can start to define these trees that are right through here a little bit more. So you'll see me working on that. I'm just trying to show you all the little examples of what I'll be doing here, because it takes quite a bit of time, but this is all that I work on. And I kind of go back and forth till I'm happy. Then we'll want to take even more blue, maybe a little bit of black. Kind of get some water in there, get it to flow. This is a darker bluish color. It's a little bit of pink. And we're going to want, of course, some shadows in these trees. So we'll add all the shadows. That'll start to define those trees a little more. And you know, we might even add some quinacridone and some white. We're going to get a lot more white here, so this is going to be a light pink. And we can even work on adding some highlights. We want that light to really seem real. We're going to show the light on these branches. So we'll do that to various branches, and won't want to go overboard with that part, but we're going to want some. So I'll work on that. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth in these trees, and then once we're getting close with the trees, we'll work a little bit on the foreground, maybe add a couple more final touches. I'll have to add some more shadows to some of these trees back here. Some of that got washed out. So I'm going to speed it up, and then we'll slow it down. We're ready to wrap up this painting. Alright, so our trees are looking a lot better, and I've been going just back and forth from the highlights in the snow to the shadows underneath, just back and forth, until everything's starting to look a little more uniform. The trees are looking a little bit more realistic. Before I keep going, now I get kind of stuck in certain areas, so I'm going to switch back to the sky. And let's put our light source and make that really glow over the trees here. Then that'll give us a better idea of where we need to go next with the trees and maybe a little bit more with the sky itself too. So I'm going to switch to a smaller scrumbling brush. This is a smaller round brush. I'm going to pick up some white. And we're going to start at the brightest area right in the center of the sun. I'm going to pick up some yellow. White and yellow. And I'll probably grab a little bit larger brush. This is mostly dry. Same brush, just a little larger. We're going to start thinking about the sun rays shining through all these trees. So I'm going underneath, and I want this yellow to really pop through the trees. And so anywhere where there's a break in the tree, I'm going to add that yellow. Just kind of go right over the top. You can see how already just that yellow washing out those trees makes it look like that light is actually present. And I might want it to kind of go up into this area and kind of fan that out. I want it to be kind of on the same plane, just spread out a little bit up into here. And even into this area. And it also starts adding layers to the trees. So now these trees actually look like they're further back, pressed up against that sun. All right, now let's take a little bit of cadmium red, a little bit of quinacridone red. Want that white too. We're going to get kind of some pinkish orange. A little more yellow. Kind of right between. I'm going to get some water on the brush. Get that flowing pretty good. We want to start, so I'm going to lay down that orange, and then I'm going to take this brush, just kind of fan it out, just kind of get it blending around. Kind of going to the outside of where we laid that yellow down. Just kind of getting some orange in there too. Fan it out, get some on, fan it out, just little by little. We want some of this pinkish orange on some of these trees too, so this is almost just kind of glazing this color right over the top of anything kind of up high, maybe where the sun's touching. Kind of going to every tree, just the tops. Getting that on there just kind of washes that out a little bit. So we want everything to really blend and flow together from the trees to the sky. That's very hard. It's very rich contrast between the sky and the trees. We want to just kind of dull that down, blends it together. Now the brush is getting to be pretty dry. There's a little bit of paint left on it. So I just look for little areas that could kind of just soften up a little bit, areas that could blend a little better. And just kind of going over the top. All right, now see how that starts to bring that sun alive. I'm going to wash the brush. I'm going to actually switch to a liner, and I'm just going to grab some thick white paint on my liner. And I'm going to make sure I have a clean finger. And I'm going to take that paint and just smear it right across. Big glob right where the sun is. And I'm going to take my finger and just kind of blend that out. Just kind of fan it out. That's going to really make it white. And get some more right there. I'm just going to kind of fan that out. So that's a really thick white paint. That's going to make that spot just pop a little bit more. All right, and the next thing I think I'm going to do is we want to put a little more into the sky. Maybe we want to put a little more brighter highlights. So let's take some thick white again. And maybe we'll pick up just a little bit of yellow. Small amount. And some of these clouds right on the bottom, maybe we could put some detail into that. Just get some brighter highlights through here, right above the sun. We're going to focus everywhere above the sun. A little bit to the side, but don't go much further than about right there. I'm looking for anywhere where those brightest highlights might be found. Just kind of adding some even brighter highlights than there already are. Maybe some down lower, right by the sun. A couple hidden through the trees over here. So by using this liner brush, you can really focus on those small details. This is really slowing it down, just taking your time. And I could poke at this way for a long time, just making small improvements but eventually they become a big improvement. We're kind of putting a little bit of that lighter color into the blue right in the center, just to lighten that center up just a little bit where that blue is. Looks like the sun's really kind of glowing right through there. All right. So now we can go back down to the sun, grab some more white, quinacridone, and yellow. We can start to fade out some of these trees that are even closer to the sun, even a little more. So I'll do that. And I'll go over the sun like this a couple more times, the same way, just increasing the amount of light. Just kind of fading out some of these trees. And you see as we fade out the trees that are closest to it, it starts to look brighter. And right where that line is, where the sun, go right across this tree and almost make that part of the tree disappear. Not too much, but we'll kind of get rid of some of it. So we'll see the top, we'll see down below, but right where that sun's shining through, it's going to be really washed out. And we'll do that a little bit over here, kind of blend that around, a little bit over there. Blend that around. It really starts to make that shine through. And so that's how we'll do the sun. I'll go back and forth and I'll work a little more on that. Then I'll wash the brush. And I'm going to take some white and some Prussian blue. And you'll also see me working a little bit more on the foreground. And I'm going to start wanting to have some kind of texture through here. So I'll work on some textures. And I'll probably with some white and quinacridone, I'll probably work on some highlights through here on the trees. Kind of make that blend right into the snow. Just like that. And all these trees need to sink into the snow on the ground. So kind of just blend those branches right into the snow. And so I'll work on that a little more. And the last thing we'll be doing is I'll take a large filbert brush. This is a 1/2 inch. And I'll grab some Prussian blue and some water. Get that really watered down because we're going to glaze this color. We're going to take a large dry round brush. We're going to end up glazing this color down lower. We might not even need the round brush. This is a big enough brush. Just glaze that color right over the top. Right through the middle. We're going to start adding texture in the snow. Subtle texture, but we want it to get darker and darker as we get further away from the sun, and especially when we get down low through here. We want that really to be darker. So I'll kind of glaze this over and over. And we might even take some of that color, kind of glaze the edges. Even glaze a little bit up top. And that's where our round dry brush kind of blend that out nice. We can add some more over here. We really want the focus to start to bring that focus closer to the center. So by glazing, we're drawing you in just along the edges, anywhere where there's maybe some other blues. Just tone those down. It's subtle, but we can build it up more and more if we need to. All right, and I'm gonna keep going and working on a few more things, just exactly like we did here in the sun. Add some more highlights, and we'll just wrap up the foreground, and we might blend out just a couple areas in the sky, and then we'll talk about it when we're done. Okay, so you can see that I've broken up the foreground quite a bit, and I've just pulled those same colors that we have in the shading of the trees, and I've kind of broken up that foreground, give it a little variety. I went up in the sky, I basically just matched the exact colors that were already there, and then just glazed that color over the top, and that softens those colors and darkens them when you glaze towards the corners. And of course we added a little more pink right underneath, just glazed that right through along with some yellow. And now I'm just kind of putting the final touches. So I've mixed some white and quinacridone red. So it's a very light pink. It's kind of this color we originally started right here. And I'm just refining some of the highlights. I want things to be nice and crisp. And this is a very tedious process that we went through in this painting, and it takes a long time to get all these trees to look realistic, to look like they're not sloppy. So just remember that, to take your time, just keep poking at it tree by tree, and you'll notice that it's just a repeat of the same process over and over each tree. And then eventually they start to soften up, they start to look how you want. So if you have any questions about that part that I sped up, I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to cover it in a future video. But it's just the exact same, what we were doing before and what we're doing right now. Just looking for areas that we can improve just little by little. Some of that snow got washed out with the pink through here. We're kind of adding that back in. But for the most part, I think we're pretty darn close. A couple highlights on these big trees here. Make it look like the sun's really beating off those snow-covered branches. And I think we're going to call that a completed painting. So I'm going to mix some light blue, and I'm going to go ahead and sign my painting down here. All right, well, I think that completes the painting for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, if you have any suggestions for future videos, or if you have any questions, just please leave them in the comment section below. I read them all. So again, thank you for joining us. And if you like this video, please like and share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.